Writing in document format, Chapter 6. Okay, so you should be reading the chapters and taking notes as you read, and then looking at the guided lecture notes and taking a few more notes. In this particular chapter, we're going to look at writing, writing organization, writing style, and paraphrasing, and we're really going to apply some of these concepts. So get ready. A lot of this will show up on a test, and it allows you to check your own understanding. So testing ourselves is significant because it allows us to assess what we grasp and what we don't. And the act of testing can actually help your memory function better. You retain more information when you test yourself. So let's go. Here are the guided lecture notes. Are they out? Do you have them in front of you? Make sure you do. Okay. So match the statement with the mode of communication. I ask that you pause and read through each of these and match it up. What works best? Go. Okay, hopefully you paused, and now we're back, and you have gone through this. Be prepared to discuss this with your class, and be prepared to see things like this show up on a test. Let's do another one. Here are common errors. I ask that you pause and take a moment and look through these and make some notes, maybe write them down, and be prepared to be able to use each of these correctly. We will have a more intense test in the next few minutes. So pause and look at this. Okay, hopefully you paused, and now we're going to test ourselves. All right, I ask that you once again pause and decide which one works best, and read through these so that you have them in mind and maybe take a few notes. All right, I am hoping that you paused. Number 3 is exemplum gratia and id est. Go ahead and Google those if you don't know your Latin, and you can have a better sense of what these are, so you won't be confused and you'll look smart the next time you jot something down, okay? Let's look at the next page. Be prepared. We have 2 more slides of this. Okay, pause. Read through all these. I hope that you have finished and that you have a pretty good idea of where these work. Notice that Word or PowerPoint got upset at my irregardless and didn't like it. You will find that happens. Okay, here's another one. Pause. Okay, I hope that you have a pretty good sense of these. Who, whom, whose, and whose are more and more frequently confused. I hate to say that all of these have been confused lately, and I've seen all of them as errors in papers, but they are. So why does this matter? It matters because your brain has to see something 30 to 60 times to remember it, and has to see it 30 to 60 times used correctly. If the people around you use words incorrectly, you are going to also tend to replicate that. So the more you see it used incorrectly, the more frequently you have to be exposed to it correctly to have that sense that there is a problem. Now, do the details matter? Yes, I hate to say that they do, but they do. Details matter, and if you're charging a client $250 to $400 for an hour of your time, you shouldn't be misspelling words. You should have a way to check yourself and make sure that what you are using is correct, and you cannot just rely on, mechanical means and other people. You should know, and that means that you have to pay attention and train your brain. Small things matter, and it really affects how other people perceive you. So should you sweat the small stuff? Yes. Editing counts. Okay, so now let's look at another small thing that's a big thing. A good thesis statement. I have students who tell me that they never have to write a thesis statement after high school or college because the real world doesn't have thesis statements. Well, let me correct you there. If you can't tell a client the value that you're going to be able to deliver that client in a single specific sentence, then you have a real problem. Okay? So you should be able to make a declarative statement that is a complete sentence in a single idea that uses specific language, not vague generalities, and reflects consideration of that audience. That is a thesis statement, and it should, for a document, preview the organization of the document and explain why the heck you're doing this in the first place. So when someone says, so what, you should say, because I'm going to deliver value for you, and I can save you over $100,000 during the next year by restructuring your point of sale devices. Okay, I'm ready to listen at that point. All right. Why? Because it sounds like you know what you're talking about, and I will at least give you a listen. And that is the first step to selling anything. And I know some of you don't think you're going into sales, but life is sales. And business life is about being able to sell to other people and create goodwill and good relationships, because you know you're building relationships at the same time that you're giving value. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a little tip about the test. Review table 6.1. See how it's in big, bold, black font there on a white background? Go review it. Okay. Business writing. So are these good examples or bad examples? These are all pertaining to the same topic. So Marlis has been chosen to receive a promotion next month. Is that a good example of business writing? Well, it's in passive voice. I don't think I would put something that is very positive in passive voice, but it is focusing on the action. Marlis is being promoted. You know, that might be better. It's still in passive voice, but, or it's actually not, it's in to be form, but it's better because it's shorter and it focuses on what's going on. So is it a good example? Not great. It's not horrible. But the next one is pretty bad. Number 2, because her work is exemplary. Why is that bad? Well, it's not a complete thought. Every sentence should be a single thought, a complete thought. Because means that this is a sentence fragment and it's not a complete thought. Now, if I were to say her work is exemplary, that would be a very good sentence, right? Okay. Number 3, at such time as it becomes feasible, it is the intention of our department to facilitate a lunch meeting to congratulate Marlis. Notice how there is no period here. Also, why does it sound so bureaucratic? You're going to congratulate Marlis. Just say you're going to have a lunch meeting and congratulate her or celebrate her promotion. We're going to have a lunch meeting to our department is having a lunch meeting to celebrate Marlis's promotion, or to celebrate the promotion. Wonderful, that's much better. So yes, numbers 2 and 3 are horrible. All right, sorry, my backup is finished. When will Marlis's promotion be official? Is that an appropriate way to use a possessive after an S? Yes, you can use an apostrophe S to indicate possessive after a name that ends in S. Are there other ways to do it? Yes, but this is perfectly appropriate if you use it consistently. So, should I ask the question, will Marlis's promotion be official? Maybe not in this communication. Hopefully you know, since you're the one sending out the information. Number 2, as a result of budget allocation analysis and examination of our financial condition, it is indicated that salary compensation for Marlis can be increased to a limited degree. All right, so in fact, this is good news, and it is couched, it is phrased in bureaucratic terms. It is very bureaucratic in style, all right? Does that mean it's a good example? No, it's a bad example, because if something is great, like Marlis is getting a small promotion, a small salary increase, a raise, then why not say that? Marlis is getting a raise. Wonderful, yay. Number 3, among those receiving promotions, comma, Marlis, Bob, Jermaine, Terry, and Akiko. Okay, there is a period here. Why is there a period? I don't know, because this is not a complete thought. And some people would say, okay, there should be a colon where the first comma is after promotions. Well, you should only have a colon if you have a complete sentence before a list. So you could say several people are receiving promotions, colon, Marlis, Bob, Jermaine, Terry, and Akiko. That would be fine. This is a problem. So is that a good example? Number 3 is a very bad example, as is number 2. All right, let's go on to the next one. The president asked all those receiving promotions, come to the meeting. I see a missing word there. You see it? All right. To come to the meeting. Please attend a meeting for all employees who will be promoted next month. Okay, I'm a little confused. Are they being promoted next month, or are you attending the meeting next month? I don't know. So obviously there's a problem with that one. Number 3, Marlis intends to use her new position to mentor employees joining the firm, which will encourage commitment and good work habits. All right, so she's going to mentor new employees. Why can't we just say that? Marlis is going to mentor new employees in her new position. That's better. All right, so I see a lot of bad examples here. Do you have a better idea of how I read? I'm trying to read every word. That's how I notice when words are missing. Read aloud, and here's some advice. As you read aloud, start at the end of your document and have someone, maybe not you, read every single word. Print it out, because when you print a document, you actually catch more errors. And then have the other person read every word. So start at the last sentence of your document and work backwards to catch more errors. And you will. I know it seems crazy, but our brains fill in for those missing words, like where we have to come in number 1 here. All right, so let's do a little activity. I'm going to tell you something you probably already noticed. There are fewer editors online these days, and so you're going to find a lot of errors. So find an example of a poor sentence or a spelling or grammar error that was published online. Go find one. It took me a minute and a half to find this. Be ready to show the example and discuss with the class. So you should be able to have some examples and find them quickly. I'll give you a point if you can find good examples that you don't steal from other people. So in the last couple of days, in this case, even Trump's own appointees rules against him. His appointees rule, right? So we have a plural, and then we have a singular verb. So it should be even Trump's own appointees rule against him. Okay? This is just one of many errors that you will discover these days. There are fewer copy editors writing these headlines and editing, and it's a problem. Okay, so now I'm going to focus on the details of dress. So this woman is kind of wearing a pantsuit. How do you know this look is wrong for an interview with Deloitte? How is the self-expression? How's the formality? Well, this is eclectic, right? It's very expressive. And if you want to know how to dress, I would say, look at Deloitte's own, like Google this. The rule is, when in doubt, overdress. Recent trends have dictated business casual attire, but it's still appropriate to wear a business suit. If you mean business, show us. Okay, wear a suit, guys, and wear a formal business suit. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to wear a vest. I would not wear a vest typically, but I would wear a suit with a tie, and if you're a woman, I would wear the women's equivalent of a suit, and dress in darker colors, with like a white shirt or a lightly colored shirt. Match your ties, match your leathers, your belt should always match your shoes, is an old rule. So go Google, look at pictures. Now, can this change? Yes. Everything can change. But you should be aware of what the rules are and be able to change with them. Business writing itself is kind of like dressing for an interview. It's not an avenue for self-expression, because that's not how we measure whether it accomplished its goal. We're measuring what the audience did with the information. So save time. Like, you can be silly and crazy and sparkly and goofy all you want, but when you're doing business, focus on the audience, content, and purpose, and evaluate whether you fulfilled your needs by that. So let's look at some writing styles. Here's a bureaucratic style. Attached is the latest delivery data represented in topographical forms pursuant to the Directive ABC 123 of the Air Transportation Guide supplied by the Federal Aviation Administration in September of 2008. Okay, so that's bureaucratic. If I ask you to label a style and describe a style, you should be able to do so. All right, let's look at the same information but delivered in a formal style. Please note the attached delivery data for July 2009. All right, this is what you would send to a client in an email, right? It's formal. It sounds like you have done your job. If you're getting paid $250 to $400 an hour, which let me tell you is the billing rate, you better be worth it. So sound like you know what you're doing and be formal and treat it like it's important. Now, here's an informal version. Here's the delivery data for last month. This is what you might send to a colleague, right? We have informal and formal. We also have casual and colloquial. Are you going to use casual or colloquial? I mean, not unless you're delivering data to your buddy who skateboards. So don't use that in the business place. Now, jargon, where does that come in? I would say that jargon is something you want to be careful about. And I am not going to use a British accent here, even though we have the S for organized. So I'm going to read what Anthony Jenkins said. I want to delayer the organization, creating a closer day-to-day relationship and clearer line of sight for myself into the business. We will organize our activity into more clearly delineated client-focused product sets. What does that mean? I don't know. I think he threw up words. It's a word vomit of jargon. And people do this sometimes, both when they know what they're doing and when they don't know, particularly if they don't want further questions. So just be aware of that. I would avoid jargon and use language that discusses what I'm actually going to do. All right, so let's come back to passive voice. We saw a passive voice sentence earlier. I want to remind you of what passive voice is. We can use the by zombies example. Passive voice, Bob was killed by zombies. So if you can add by zombies to the end, usually it's passive voice. Now, is it still passive if we just say Bob was killed? Yes, because killed by whom? By zombies. Hidden there at the end, unstated, but we all know poor Bob, he was doomed. And so Bob is not the actor, right? We're hiding the actor in the passive sense voice. Active, zombies killed Bob. Ugh. So zombies did it. All right. So active and passive are strategic choices, and they should be strategic choices. If you default to passive voice for even good news, you don't have a reason for doing it, you just like to do it, there's a problem. Because your writing is boring, it's going to become harder to read, and you know, be clear. It lacks clarity. So if Sammy broke the copier, or Sammy would have broken the copier if you didn't stop her, or him. I don't know if Sammy is a her or a him, but be careful. Okay, this is active voice. Now, if I really like Sammy, and I want to be tactful or de-emphasize that the copier, you know, was broken, maybe I might say just the copier was broken, or a copier was broken, and that way we don't focus on it. Now, if I say the copier is instead of was, it's not passive. So know that difference. It's a use of the to be. So it's not a passive voice. All right, can you recognize that might be on the test? Okay, as long as you know. All right, let's look at another form of analysis. If you're looking at someone's argument, then you should be able to apply some sort of analysis. And Toulmin has a three-part rhetorical strategy to look at what somebody claims. So look at the claim itself. In this case, the claim is a statement of belief or truth. It is important for women to make their LinkedIn profiles visible to recruiters. Then look at the data or grounds. Those are the supporting reasons for the claim. On LinkedIn, women were more likely to keep their social media profiles private than men. So We know that they keep them private, so it's important to make them visible. Now, what's my warrant? Well, that's the connection between the claim, which is my statement of belief, and the reasons. So who do I think should be doing this? Career centers and those providing training on LinkedIn should encourage everyone to use LinkedIn and make their profiles public. So everybody's got to do this. Who's going to do it? Where is this coming from? There we are. Can you take something apart and look at these parts? It's hard to do, but this is part of analysis, and so get comfortable with it. This is one type of analysis. All right, now we get to a critical aspect for any time you use somebody else's words when you don't necessarily want to quote. And when should you quote them? You quote them when the exact word choice is so good, or you're going to tear it apart. So you want to have the exact words so it's easier to tear it apart. Otherwise, if it is not so good or you don't want to tear it apart word by word in a close reading, then you paraphrase and you give credit for the idea, but you use your own words. To make sure you are using your own words, follow this process. And I promise, literally read the passage out loud. So I know you don't want to do this. You don't like reading aloud. Pay attention to the complete thought rather than the individual words. So read it aloud. Say the words out loud. Then, somehow, now it's kind of hard to do things face to face, but find somebody and using your words, explain the concept. Don't read the original passage, explain the concept so that you put all your English words together and they come out. You don't write this down, you say it. Now, without looking at the original, having used your own words to explain it, now write the concept in your own words and add an example. Can you do that? Okay, now we get to number 4. Reread the original passage and see how your version compares to the original passage. So look at the grammar, the word choice, the example, and the meaning. Okay, so you have a different example, right? Is it just a little bit different or is it truly different? If you're writing parrots, so it sounds like the original passage, or substitute synonyms for words in the original, return to step 1 and start over. So if you just swap out some words or it sounds very similar, you've got to start again, okay? Paraphrasing is not swapping out a few words. Paraphrasing is literally putting it in your own words. I know it's hard, but this is a critical aspect of getting an idea across and owning that idea so that you can you can discuss it, you can make sense of it, and you're literally making your brain a little more wrinkly. You're creating more connections in your brain as you go through this process. So I am helping you improve your brain. You're doing some squats here for your brain while you are going through this process. So think of me as your personal trainer, and these are brain squats, and you're going to have a really buff brain at the end of it. So keep paraphrasing. Here's a paraphrasing activity. I'm going to ask you to pause and do this. Read it out loud, determine the main idea, and paraphrase. Okay, hopefully you paused, and expect to see that again. Avoiding plagiarism tips. Okay, I want you to read for the main idea, communicate that idea, and then type your own paraphrased version. Be aware that when you copy and paste, you are more likely to plagiarize. So I love Control-C and Control-V as much as the next person. Those keyboard shortcuts are my friends, but you are more likely to plagiarize when you copy and paste. So be careful, and now you know how not to do it, so go through these steps. They are more effort, but they are part of your education. I ask you now to find a case where plagiarism or misrepresentation had consequences in the business world. So go ahead and search the internet. All right, I did. I found 2. These are both resume scandals. So what did you find? Did it take you very long? You should be able to find things all the time, right out there. As a wrap-up, I want to emphasize that organization and style matter. They matter on an overall level, and they matter on an individual level. And so when you see the question, that we pointed out in the guided lecture notes, that some people say don't sweat the small stuff, and how does that apply? Well, you do sweat the small stuff because details matter. Details are important, and you want to check and make sure that your work fits with the overall work that you're doing. The small details fit with the overall message from your company and the branding of your company. And while some might say good writing is good writing and that it's all the same, the rules themselves vary based on the audience, and we'll judge whether your work was successful in this class based on whether it meets the needs of that audience and secondary audiences. So the rules for business writing are different than those in a rhetoric class. In review, take a look at your guided lecture notes. Make sure you've filled all this out and you have a pretty good understanding of everything. Go through it, review it. Here are some references, and I'm going to end on this note that when we look at Matisse and we look at excellent, beautiful work, organization, style, and details matter, and what we show and don't show plays an important role in what we're trying to communicate. So, you're doing good work, and you should continue to do good work. Have some fun with it, but figure out your strategy, your way of approaching things, and continue to work hard. Y'all have a good day. Bye.